Good afternoon, everyone. Call to order this public hearing, which is convened under provisions of the Local Government Act of British Columbia to hear submissions relative to the proposed bylaw. All persons who believe that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard respecting matters in the proposed bylaw. I would ask those members of the public who wish to speak to commence your address to this board by clearly stating your name. The board will not debate the matters of a proposed bylaw with individual citizens, but members may ask questions of you following your presentation. The main function of this public hearing is to listen to your views. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views heard. Bylaw number 2843 would consider a site-specific zoning amendment of the RL1 rural zone at 2182 Settlers Road, Lower Nicola, BC, to enable light industrial activities, including ancillary shipping containers, heavy equipment storage, and an administration office on a portion of the property. Ms. Corporate Officer, are there any written submissions?
Chair Roden, no written submissions have been received.
Thank you. Are there any in-person submissions? I'm calling once for anyone who would like to make an in-person submission regarding this bylaw. Calling a second time for anyone who would like to make representation. And calling a third and final time for anyone who would like to make representation. There being no speakers, I declare this public hearing closed. And again, here we go again. Call to order this meeting of the Thompson-Nicola Regional District for Thursday, March the 6th, 2025. The TNRD acknowledges that we connect with many First Nations communities across our vast regional district. And today we are located on the Kamloops to Secwepemc territory, situated within the unceded ancestral lands of the Secwepemc Nation. The TNRD appreciates the partnership that we have with Kamloops to Secwepemc and respect the territory and land on which we gather today. Chair's announcements. We have some alternate directors here today. We have Andrea Inwards here for Director Laird. We have Nancy Bepple here for Director Newstader. And we have Andrea Van Itterson here for Director Houghton. Or we should have. She's apparently not here. She's here in spirit, I'm sure. You may be aware that there was an election for mayor in Barrier on March 1st, and former councillor Rob Kerslake, who will be familiar to everyone here, was successful in his bid for the mayoral position. So we look forward to welcoming him here as Director Kerslake to a future meeting. We have a library update. The Thompson-Nicola Regional Library is excited to host Vancouver cartoonist Kathleen Gross for the upcoming spring break, which will be here before we know it, March 17th to 28th. Ms. Gross will lead comic and zine workshops for kids and teens at library branches across the TNRD. You can find more information about youth-focused programming in your folders or on the library's website at tnrl.ca. The application period is now open for the Spring 2025 Regional Grant in Aid Program. Nonprofit organizations in electoral areas and municipalities around the TNRD can now apply for the Spring 2025 intake of the TNRD's Regional Grant in Aid Program. As of 2025, the application deadlines have shifted to March 31st for the spring intake and September 30th for the fall intake. This program is open to nonprofits for projects or events that broadly benefit the Thompson-Nicola region and its residents. Nonprofits can apply for up to $5,000 in funding, and up to $25,000 may be allocated during each of the intake periods. Eligible applications are reviewed by the TNRD Regional Grants Committee, and funds are awarded by the TNRD Board. For more information on the Grant in Aid program and to apply, visit tnrd.ca/grants. Also, a note for the Spring 2025 Grant in Aid intake, up to $31,325 is available to be awarded. This is due to a one-time transfer of $6,325 in unallocated funds from the fall 2024 intake period, which was approved by the TNRD board. And big thanks on the weekend of February 22nd, which was the Family Day long weekend, a water main break in Blue River resulted in the reservoir being drained in a matter of minutes. A quick response from local contractors and TNRD staff resulted in isolating the leak, completing the repair, and restoring service to all homes and businesses in less than 24 hours. It was not an easy task. If you have ever seen the size of the snow piles in Blue River in February, Director Onslow is grinning and nodding, so I will take her word for it. Big thanks to the TNRD utilities staff and to the contractors. Just a brief update, as you might know, CAO Hildebrand, External Relations Manager Kelly, and myself were in Victoria for 2 days earlier this week. We had 4 meetings with 6 different ministers across a one-day period, and we will be providing a full report of the meetings and resulting actions at the next meeting. Mr. Kelly has done a great job in very quickly pulling together a preliminary overview, and we will be looking at that and bringing it to you for a full report at our next meeting. Upcoming meetings and events. On March 26th, we have the Boundary Review Committee at 10 a.m. and the Policy and Governance Committee at 1:30. On March 27th, Electoral Area Directors Committee meeting at 9, regular board meeting at 1:30. And on March 28th, we have a Committee of the Whole meeting starting at 9 a.m. Upcoming events are MFA 2025 Annual General Meeting in Victoria, April 23rd, 24th, the SILG Convention in Merritt, April 29th to May 2nd, and Federation of Canadian Municipalities at Rogers Centre in Ottawa, May 29th to June 1st. Today in your blue folders, you will find regular mail, a copy of the Spring 2025 Grant in Aid Intake press release, and please do feel free to disseminate this via social media or any other means. We want to get the word out to as many groups as possible. We have a copy of the letter from the Columbia Shuswap Regional District regarding Cooperative Community Wildfire Response Program. And we have a copy of a presentation from Kathy Peters, hard drugs, full decriminalization needs to be repealed in BC. And in the event of an emergency, if the fire alarm sounds, please leave by the safest exit doors, either at the rear of the room or the main entrance on my left. Go down the staircase, exit the building, and assemble in the staff car parking lot at the rear of the Paramount Theatre. Please do not run or use the elevators. If you have issues with mobility, please advise the corporate officer. I assume CAO Hildebrand has mentioned to Corporate Officer Jeremiah that he might need assistance.
Marty had something.
Corporate Officer Jeremiah, do you have something to add?
Thank you, Chair Roden. Just a reminder, we have canceled the Boundary Review Committee or postponed it. Our chair will be away and unable to attend. So we will be notifying everybody once we've set an amended date.
Thank you. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that is the day that Minister Osborne was able to meet with us as the hospital board. So we will postpone and we'll reach out to all the committee members to ensure full membership. But it just kind of came up last minute. We weren't going to turn her down for a committee meeting. So we'll just adjust on our end. Thank you.
All right, we move on to, are there any additions to deletions from the agenda? No, then we move on to the minutes of the regular board meeting from February 20th, 2025. Director Ranta, thank you. Seconded by Director Blackwell. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Item 7.1, zoning amendment bylaw number 2843. We do have 2 recommendations. Director Blackwell, thank you. Seconded by Director Sarai. Is there any discussion on recommendation number 1 that it be read a 3rd time? No discussion. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Second recommendation. Director Thorpe, thank you. Seconded by Director Getz. Any discussion on the second recommendation? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. All right, we have a delegation from the Kamloops Foundry Association. I would like to welcome Manager Lisa Johansson, who is here to provide information on upcoming projects. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me okay? Perfect. Thank you very much for having me here to share some information about Foundry Kamloops. As mentioned, my name is Lisa Johansson. I'm the Foundry Kamloops manager. This is an informational overview and really to kind of indicate the importance of Foundry Kamloops, both locally, but very much so regionally as well. You can see on the slides, we're going to talk about Foundry, what it is, the mission, the model, the services, where Foundry Kamloops and the physical center is as well. And I will try to keep it to a tight 10 minutes. So there's already a beautiful territorial acknowledgement. Foundry is a provincial initiative that I will speak to a little bit more in a minute. But Foundry centers, physical centers and services operate all over this province. So we always want to take a moment to recognize the rich Indigenous histories that the services are offered on and the places we occupy. And of course, here where we are located today, it's traditional to Kamloops District Ethnic Territory. In terms of setting the context for what Foundry is and where it sits, as I mentioned, it's a provincial initiative, and the agency that holds this provincial contract here in Kamloops is Interior Community Services. You can see the various streams of service that ICS operates and has been operating for decades here in this community and in surrounding regions. ICS provides services to over 1,000 people a day. And Foundry will be part of the youth services stream. And I share this because as we go forward, you may hear ICS, you may hear Foundry Kamloops, and just understand these are almost one and the same, Foundry being that provincial contract that ICS holds. And just following with the provincial context, that is supposed to be a picture of the province there, but there are a number of Foundry centers that are already open and operational across the province. Those are listed in blue. There are 16 of them that are already offering services to young people and caregivers. And there are 19 more that are coming in the next few years, including Kamloops, you can see listed there. And I share this because there will be 35 centers in total, physical spaces where young people and family members can go to seek services. And layered over top of this are some Foundry virtual services that are available right now for free through an app. And this paints a pretty strong picture for integrated health services for young people and families in this province. And Foundry is part of a national integrated youth services space and really doing some incredible work over there as well. So what is Foundry? I've been saying this word a whole bunch. What it is integrated health, mental health, social services for those ages 12 to 24 and their families and caregivers. The idea is it is free, it is preventative and upstream, low barrier, no referrals are required. A young person or family member can walk into this space or go on the virtual app and seek services same day, and in some cases make appointments in the near future. And the vision, as you can see up there, was really to transform and ease access to health and social services for young people and families. It is very widely recognized that it is tough to access services, and a lot of services are once they're very complex. So the idea is Foundry is that preventative upstream model where hopefully we can address issues early. And even if you're not even sure you have a problem, that's a great time to come to a Foundry center to help see if there's supports there that can help you find that connection, that base, so that you can go ahead and live a good life. Those two pictures are existing Foundry centers. In the Lower Mainland, they, as you can see, there's a bit of a theme, a vibe, if you will, and they are designed with intention by our youth and family advisories. So Foundry Kamloops has a youth advisory, we have a family advisory, we have a government table composed of most streams of service that impact youth already functioning, and they will be doing a lot of the work to design our physical space here. A little bit more about the model and services. Foundry services offer 5 streams. You can see them in the circle there. Physical and sexual health, what that looks like is a family physician, a doctor, a nurse practitioner, that can be a registered nurse, really those primary care pieces. Mental health usually looks like clinical counseling, walk-in counseling. That can look like small groups. That can look like yoga. That can look like a cooking class. That can look like being in a garden. It can look like anything that brings mental health and wellness to young people. Substance use support, an incredibly important pillar given the toxic drug supply and the impact it's having on young people and families. In Foundry centers and in that preventative context, that often looks like substance use counseling. That can look like grief supports. That can look like a Dungeons and Dragons group that just supports people who know they've been impacted by substance use and want a space to connect. Social services, another stream of service, and what that looks like in Foundry centers is typically housing supports and navigation, family services. That can look like employment services, and really the navigation of all the various social services. Last but certainly not least is peer support, recognizing that young people want to speak to a young person. And the same tone, a family member or caregiver might want to speak to another family or caregiver who might have experienced similar things and navigated certain pathways through systems of care. And one thing I always want to point out in this picture is the arrows between all those services. And I wish those arrows were a lot bigger, because the idea is you come to Foundry, preventative upstream, and you get help to navigate all these services together. We know we can't silo people into 5 beautiful streams like this. So the idea is navigation between all of these is really, really important and part of what you get at Foundry. There's 3 ways to access Foundry services. You can see them there. There's a website. There are physical Foundry centers, as I mentioned. Kamloops is coming. And the Foundry BC app. And the app is something, if there's a few takeaways from this presentation, I do want folks to know that the app is here available right now for free. It's something you can download on your smartphone, on a computer. There's a phone number to access it. And there are services from all 5 streams of those for young people and caregivers that can be accessed right now. So it's a beautiful thing while we're building our physical center here in Kamloops. And it's great for someone who just might not want to show up in a physical space, but prefers to access resources virtually. So please do remember that app is there and can be part of the toolkit for helping young people and families. I'm assuming everyone recognizes this map. It is, of course, the TNRD. I pulled it off the website. And really what I also want as a takeaway from this presentation is to recognize that Foundry Kamloops is the only Foundry center in the TNRD region. You can see the red star there, that is where we are. And I've put 3 yellow stars around the TNRD region, indicating kind of the 3 closest Foundry centers that are open and operational right now. To the north, we have Foundry Caribou-Chilcotin in Williams Lake. It's a fabulous Foundry center. To the south, kind of left or west, there's various Foundry centers that are in the Lower Mainland operational right now. And to the east is Kelowna, Foundry Kelowna, one of the original Foundry centers. Now we know people from this region already have had to travel hours to access Foundry services, and we are anticipating that if this is your closest Foundry center here in Kamloops, that you will be turning here to access services. And that is very much top of mind for as we build this out, because we are located in Kamloops, which in Foundry world is considered an urban environment, and it is. And we have some really interesting and fantastic rural and remote pieces to this region. So we are already doing that legwork behind the scenes, connecting with service providers. We're going to be going out into municipalities. We want this message to go wide and far. We want to hear what the challenges are. We want to know how we can best support and address them as well. So Foundry Kamloops, where is it going to be? It's going to be right there, 540 Seymour Street. It was half a block's walk to get here today. And I'll jump right to the end. We're planning to open doors and offer services in the second half of 2026. And to do that, we are currently fundraising. We have our capital campaign launched because Foundry Kamloops will go into the bottom floor of that building right there. And we need to raise money to do the renovations that will provide the robust services that our youth and family deserve and need. So we have a goal of raising $4 million by 2025. We are actively working towards this. And I do want that message to go out as well. We need to raise this money to build this space so we can do these services. And perhaps as a little bit of incentive, early renderings of what it might look like on the outside. We're going to create a completely separate entrance on the building, and we're going to have it be open, accessible. We're going to have fenced off courtyard spaces. We have already submitted development permits to the city of Kamloops. We have building permits coming shortly. We are trying to move this forward as fast as we can to make sure these services are offered. This is a little bit busy, but sometimes just seeing a floor plan helps people understand what this might look like in a physical space. So towards the bottom, you can see that front entrance and those courtyards. If you go in through those bottom doors, you have that open kind of welcoming environment. There's lots of nooks, a lot of not 90-degree angles in our space with intention to kind of break up the space and make it feel a little bit more interesting and welcome. Those kind of darker orange colors are multi-purpose rooms. That is where kind of yoga and educational pieces can take place. We're going to have a demonstration kitchen with a daily meal. And towards the back of the space, we have what we think of as more kind of confidential spaces. So we'll have various counseling rooms. We will have 3 primary care spaces for that doctor and nurse practitioner to provide services in. And the green are kind of drop-down desks for various service providers to provide all the services that they will be doing in Foundry. I know I'm probably over time. I don't want to rush through this too quickly. There are a whole bunch of stats out there that I can share around with this group going forward about the impact Foundry is having. The one I want to really showcase, this is from the 23-24 impact report, is that 46% number. I think this is really important to highlight the importance of family and friends because 46% of youth were referred to Foundry by family and friends. Service providers, health professionals have a huge role to play in this, but so does the community. And I really want that message to be out there loud and clear. Last and certainly not least, I don't have time to speak at length about this, but I could. I always want to recognize our Youth Advisory Committee. They're one of 3 core advisories that we have for Foundry Kamloops. This is a half of them about, and they kindly indulged me in a cheesy picture. And they are the ones who have been designing that floor plan and doing the great work with our architect and design team. And they're going to be informing on services and really making sure we're doing this right and centering youth in this process at all steps, because Foundry is really for youth, by youth. Thank you so much for listening to me today.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. Certainly awesome news for Kamloops and for the surrounding area. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Johansson? Okay, Director Sao, then Director Sarai, Director Hall, Director Sao.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentation. I'm just wondering what the operating hours would be, just out of concern for my residents in rural area A in the North Thompson. We only have 2 transit service, 2 buses a week to Kamloops. So just wondering what the operating hours would be. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Foundry centers, what we can do is kind of take the examples that have been, and what we get to do is create as well our own here. But Foundry centers, they always offer some hours at least 2 to 3 weeks or nights a week into the evening. So that usually looks like 7 to 8 p.m. that they're open. That's the short answer. It's usually there's a few later in the evening, but also very kind of standard days, times kind of 8:30 to 4:30. It depends on the service specifically, but there are usually some evening programming pieces.
Director Sarai?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nice to see you again, Lisa, in the presentation. Just curious, the $4 million, I think you mentioned this before, to get it operating and built. Operational after that, do we have ongoing funding that'll keep coming in so it's successful that you don't have to keep reaching out every few years?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Yes, so the province does provide ongoing operational funding for Foundry Kamloops to operate. That being said, there will probably be some efforts by Foundry Kamloops and Interior Community Services to do some programmatic fundraising because we can certainly operate within our operating budget. I think to hit the target and the high level of service we want to provide here, we will be looking for additional funding down the way, but it's not required.
Director Hall?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question with regards to getting the youth to the facility. Are you involved, or are you involving the program and the education to the school districts at all? Because I think that's where the messaging needs to be to sort of create that engagement opportunity for them. Because as you mentioned in your presentation, not everybody at first wants to say, hey, I'm ready to go. Sign me up and I'm going down to Foundry. Yeah. So I'm just wondering if there's a pathway to school district.
Yes, the short answer is yes, absolutely. So one piece I wasn't able to touch on in this 10-minute presentation is our governance table for Foundry Kamloops is composed of all the kind of core sectors that impact youth. So School District 73 is at our table. They have been for over a year. They are very keen partners. School districts across the province are often one of the closest and kind of biggest referral pieces to Foundry. There's lots of opportunity and neat kind of operational pieces where we're slowly lining up, but absolutely being connected to the school district, we are there. Yeah.
Thank you. And do you know if you've reached out to School District 74?
We haven't gotten too far down with the programmatic pieces of that, but I do know the superintendent of School District 74 as well. It is very much on our radar.
She's awesome. Alternate Director Bepple.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in, Lisa. Great location for the Foundry. Once it's opened, I mean, there's a physical space, but will this Foundry still provide online services for people who aren't able to come in physically to the location?
Yes. It's the short answer, yes. So the Foundry virtual services will continue to be available, and that's a provincial team of folks that provide services. And what will hopefully come as we move forward is the idea that we can have some services that are actually in our physical center that can be offered virtually as well. But yes, absolutely, there's a virtual component if people can't or choose not to show up in the physical space.
Thank you. Does anyone else have questions or comments? Anyone else? Well, thank you again. Very exciting development, and we look forward to the back half of 2026, if not a little bit sooner.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we have a second delegation, and that is the Thompson-Nicola Conservation Collaborative, and we have Program Director Danielle Topercher here. Welcome, and the floor is yours. Or welcome back, I should say. The floor is yours.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today. Yeah, my name is Danielle Topizer. Close. I get there's a lot of variations on it. I just wanted to thank you for inviting me in today. And I just wanted to tell you a bit about some new wetland and grassland work that we have that we'd like to share with you. Firstly, we'd like to acknowledge, sorry, second slide. Whoa. That the TNCC operates and lives and works upon the traditional unceded territories of the Secwepemc, Syilx, and Nlakatlan peoples. The TNCC is a collaborative effort dedicated to conservation and the sustainable stewardship of Thompson-Nicola natural values. We do work with a number of different organizations and agencies and groups, including Indigenous communities, all levels of government, academia, and stewardship groups to advance conservation in the region. I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit with you about some new mapping and modeling data that we have, highlighting the vital roles of wetlands and grasslands in community safety, and seeking today TNRD support to incorporate this predictive mapping and modeling data into their existing planning tools. So as we've seen with devastating fires like the Lytton, Bush Creek East, and White Rock Lake fires, and more recently destructive floods in Savannah, our region is facing unprecedented challenges. These events, driven by climate change and exacerbated by land use changes, demonstrates the escalating threats to our communities. We're losing our natural defenses that are wetlands and grasslands. These ecosystems act as vital buffers, with wetlands absorbing floodwaters and grasslands preventing soil erosion and slowing wildfire spread. As the data shows, the TNRD has already lost significant grassland areas, weakening our resilience. This loss directly intensifies the impacts of disasters, turning extreme weather into community-wide catastrophes. The TNCC's predictive mapping and modeling data provides critical knowledge and tools that help address these challenges. By supporting the integration of this data into TNRD planning, we can proactively protect these ecosystems, strengthening our regional resilience and protecting our communities against future disasters. This is more than just about conservation. It's about building safer and more sustainable future for the region. So on the landscapes, wetlands act as flood protectors. They have multiple different functions. They act as natural sponges, absorbing excess water and thereby reducing flood risks. Protecting these areas directly reduces flood and drought risk to communities. In a region like the Thompson-Nicola, where we've seen increasing instances of extreme weather, this function is more important than ever By preserving and restoring wetlands, we're strengthening our natural defenses against these threats. And understanding where these wetlands are located on the landscape and how effectively they function is crucial, which is why our mapping and data is so important. So grasslands play a vital role in mitigating fire risk. As we've seen, wildfires are a growing concern, and healthy grasslands can act as a crucial natural defense. Firstly, healthy grasslands slow wildfire spread. The density and structure of native grasses can impede the rapid progression of flames, giving us valuable response time. Secondly, native grasses reduce fuel load. This is critical because less fuel means less intense fires. Conversely, invasive species often increase fuel load, thereby exacerbating the risk. By focusing on native grasslands, we're actively managing fuel and reducing fire severity. Thirdly, grasslands create natural fire breaks. These areas can act as barriers, preventing fires from spreading to other vulnerable ecosystems or communities. This is particularly important within an area as diverse as the TNRD. And finally, protecting and restoring grasslands enhances fire resilience. By investing in these ecosystems, we're not only reducing immediate threats, but also building long-term resilience. So the TNCC is completing year 3 and the final year of a project in partnership with UBC Okanagan and the Okanagan Collaborative Conservation Program and a more than 30 different expert advisor group. We've linked this program to other government databases, local governments, consultants, and beyond to make sure that the data we're working with and that we're developing can be integrated into other processes and for other uses. We are thankful to have the support and funding from the Real Estate Foundation of BC and Environment and Climate Change Canada. So the issue is that we know that wetlands and grasslands are critical for resilience, but the key question is, where are they and how well do they function? To protect them, we need accurate and up-to-date data. This project addresses this, doing 3 key things. Firstly, we've created detailed maps showing exactly where the wetlands are across the region and their characteristics. We've worked to identify their vulnerability and to development and climate change, and are making this tool accessible to local governments, nations, stewardship groups, and more to help inform land use planning and decision-making. So this slide shows our detailed mapping of grasslands on the left and wetlands on the right. This is a bit of a beta test that I'm showing you. The final data will be coming out very shortly. I'll get to that. We've developed these highly detailed maps providing more comprehensive understanding of these ecosystems than what's previously been made available. So, and of course, this data is for the entire Thompson-Nicola Regional District and into the Okanagan as well. So for grasslands, we've mapped the plant types, including the invasive species, to help understand their composition and condition. Knowing which plants are present, including invasive species, allows for targeted management efforts to control them. In addition, we've mapped species movement patterns, which is really important to help us identify critical habitat patches and connected corridors for wildlife, which is a growing area of interest and support by many nations, governments, and other groups. For wetlands, we've mapped the distribution of wetlands and have evaluated the hydrological connectivity. So that is how different wetlands are connected across the landscape through the flow of water. This helps us understand how water moves through the landscape and how changes in one wetland might affect other wetlands' function, which is very critical when we're looking at increasing flood risk or reducing water availability, reduced water availability throughout times of drought. As well, we're assessing the vulnerability to climate change. So we've analyzed how vulnerable these different wetlands are to the impacts of climate change, particularly drought. We've identified the species of risk occurrences, helpful to know if a development that is proposed near a wetland supports species at risk or not. And then therefore measures could be taken to minimize these impacts. In many cases, also, there are legal obligations to protect species at risk and their habitats. So identifying these wetlands near these species helps to ensure compliance with these legal requirements. For both grasslands and wetlands, the data also shows carbon storage capacity. This is very important because we know that ecosystems play really important roles in storing carbon, which helps us mitigate climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions and helps local governments make informed choices about land management decisions to maximize their climate benefit and to support climate action benefits and goals. In April, we will be having this interactive web map and story map available online. It will be easily and openly accessible to local governments, to communities, to nations, and more. And all data will be downloadable for use by these groups. There we go. I just wanted to also highlight one slide here for you. I think I'm a little bit lost in my slides. Give me 1 second here. This slide highlights a practical example of our wetland mapping in action. This is pretty cool because we've seen a case study already in action from the city of Vernon. So our mapping is informing the creation of Vernon's Aquatic Environmental Depermit Area, or EDPA. The city relied on our detailed wetland mapping to accurately identify these ecosystems, and without it, they would have missed many vital areas. This means more riparian and wetlands are being protected, strengthening natural defenses against wildlife and wildfire and flooding, and contributing to more effective land use planning. Vernon is now incorporating this EDPA into their official community plan, ensuring long-term protection. So with that, I just wanted to summarize by saying thank you, and we are seeking your support to incorporate this data into your existing planning tools to ensure that these ecosystems are considered in planning and decision-making. Specifically, we propose collaborating on integrating this data into your OCPs, policies, and bylaws, and as well as into your EDPAs. We are also happy to help collaborate with your team, your planning team, on environmentally sensitive area mapping, of which this data can help provide immense information to. And with that, I want to thank you for your time and appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Topperser. Closer. And Director Getz, I see you've got your hand up. Anyone questions? Director Sow, Director Getz, then Director Sow.
Thank you for the presentation. Got a question for you. In Merritt, we are doing the spam rewilding with the 5 bands. Is TNCC involved in that? That is the southwest flood area that we're reclaiming. We're buying out the properties and working with the 5 bands to rewild the entire thing. Is TNCC involved in that at all?
There are a couple of nations that are on TNCC's steering committee, so I am looped into some of the tables that are active in the Merritt and Nicola area. This data is certainly being shared with those nations and also with the city of Merritt to help inform planning too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Director Sow.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your presentation. Got 2 questions. I recently, Director Thorpe and we were at the Nicola Watershed Council meeting on drought. And then we learned some of the large-scale projects they have planned, and I was wondering if the TNCC and your stakeholders have any major projects over the horizon that goes beyond protection. For example, the Nicola Watershed Council have received First Nations and provincial government funding for engineering study and consulting firm to go and study potential reservoir constructions. So that's, major projects. I'm wondering if TNCC or the mapping data that you have created, if that's in line to be planned for being used in any future projects of the sort?
Yeah, great question. Thanks. So the data, like I said, is being shared very broadly. We do have within our advisory team a number of provincial government folks on that team. So they're very well aware of the data and have been integral in looking at it and helping to test it out. We are looking at ways that we can incorporate this into the BC government database as well, so that it can be further broadly used. So certainly it can inform a number of different on the ground work that's happening.
Thank you very much. And then last comment, the TNRD is undertaking the Parks and Trail strategy. You're shaking your head. I assume you're aware of this going on. And yeah, a lot of the community parks and trails do revolve around some sort of geographical, usually water feature. I was in Clinton the other day and noticed an awesome park, with a nice stream through it and bridges, footbridges. So I think the TNCC's knowledge of these wetlands and sensitivity would be greatly appreciated to be shared with our team. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And it is definitely a great source of information to help draw upon when we're making decisions about parks or developments or agriculture, et cetera, because any number of on the land work that's being done may be impacted either way by grasslands or wetlands and their function. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Alternate Director Bepple.
Thank you. I see that City of Kamloops has a representative on your steering committee. Have you had any other representatives from local government on the steering committee or within what you call your partnerships?
Not directly on the steering committee. However, the TNCC has worked with your planning staff on the natural areas section of electoral area. I believe it's M and N. And we've provided input and recommendations into that section and have provided that over to staff. So certainly there is a lot of and more back and forth and communication and collaboration with TNRD staff and also with City of Kamloops for sure. Yeah. Hopefully I answered your question. Thanks.
Director Karpuk.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. There's an awful lot of people and groups that are obviously involved with various different aspects of our environment and conservation, biology and such. Curious to how the BC Grasslands Conservation Council works with your group, or do you have any collaborative? Because obviously there's a bit of overlap, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. And TNCC works across a broad landscape and not focused on one singular ecosystem, but more about the ecosystems as a whole, with conservation protection, certainly on those more sensitive ecosystems. The Grasslands Conservation Council and TNCC collaborate extensively. And they actually are a representative on our steering committee as well. Yeah. So it definitely that collaboration and making sure that we're all working towards the same goals and we're not reinventing the wheel, but we're building off of what each other has. And some of the GCC data actually has supported the development of some of the data that we're building on right now. Yeah.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? No? Well, thank you very much. I understand you're already in touch with staff and yes, please continue that relationship. I think mapping is one of the key tools that we have in our arsenal. I know the TNRD staff are doing an awesome job with mapping and sharing with our municipalities within the TNRD. So I think this is a wonderful partnership. Thank you for all the work you're doing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we move on to item 9.1, zoning amendment bylaw number 2861. We do have a recommendation. Would any?
Recommendation.
Thank you, Director O'Reilly. Second by Director Rant, I believe that was. Any discussion on this? Any discussion on the question? All those in favor? Is anyone opposed? That is carried. 9.2, Film Commission Service Fees and Charges Bylaw. We do have 3 recommendations. Move 1, Director Smith, thank you. Seconded by Director Thorpe. Discussion. I understand these electric generators are very, very quiet, which is good because when we had filming in Ashcroft, we did have numerous complaints about the noise of the generators being used. Discussion, questions, comments? Ms. Hadwin is here. If you have any technical questions, Director Sal, thinking about it?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sorry, thank you, Chair. Has, a bit of a consultation with local businesses that do equipment rental, like, has there been any impact, discussed with them?
So we, before we purchased the e-generators, we did a research of any possible e-generators that could be rented within the TNRD and we found none.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Director Getz?
So Terry, I have a question. Last time we were here over at the hotel, there was a generator running there. I think they were doing a movie shoot. Is that one of the generators there that was there all week?
Yes, it was. We provided them for free of charge for that one use. It was a very exciting project to have within the TNRD, and we wanted our maiden voyage to be with a super duper exciting company that was coming into our area, and they did utilize our generators.
I didn't hear anything, I have to be honest with you.
Awesome.
Any other questions? On the recommendation, then all those in favor? Is anyone opposed? Carried. Recommendation 2. Director Getz, big hand up for that one. Anyone would like to second it? Director Middleton, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And number 3. Move 3, Director Hall, Director Ranta seconds that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 10.1, Development Variance Permit Application Number DVP 126. We do have a recommendation. Director Grenier, thank you. Director Morris seconds that. Any discussion or questions on this item? No questions on the signs. Thank you for the visual aids in the report. We are on 10.1.
I need to,
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I need to recuse. This particular company is a customer of a business that I own. And I don't want to be seen as in conflict with any decisions made. Thank you.
I don't think it'll be a long absence. Does anyone have anything? Director Blackwell? Director Blackwell?
Yeah, I seem to remember that there was a Flying J out there before, was there not?
There was a what?
Flying J out there before, was there not a Flying J? The other way, okay, that way. Just weird world anyways, and thank you to Director Middleton for declaring our conflict so clearly, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or comments on this item? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Is anyone opposed? That is carried. It's going warm again, and I don't think it's just me.
We did crack the air conditioner. It'll catch up soon. Stop breathing and talking.
Actually, it's cold.
I think women of a certain age get a little leery of mentioning that it might be a little bit hot in here, but I see other people looking visibly uncomfortable, and it's not just the women, so I think it's probably safe in mentioning it. All right, we move on to item 10.2, Clean Energy Referral Number REF 752. Report here for information only, as this is at the exploratory stage. Does anyone have any questions? I'm sure Mr. Kraus would be happy to answer them. No questions? All right, and item 10.3, Clean Energy Referral Number REF 753, again for information only, as this is in the exploratory stages. Does anyone have any questions about this item? We are on to 11.1.1, Canada Community Building Fund, Electoral Areas A and O, Little Fort Fire Protection. We do have a recommendation. Who would like to make that motion? Director Sao, seconded by Director Morris. Thank you. Any discussion on this item? 2-bay garage structure in Little Fort. Nope. No? All right, then, on the question, all those in favor? Is anyone opposed? That is carried. Item 11.1.2, 2025 FireSmart Pilot Program for Regional District Cooperative Community Wildfire Response Organizations. And Mr. Vieira would like to speak to this. Mr. Vieira.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. So the details of how the program operates is contained in the report. But I wanted to speak to this in a little more detail as I know that there's been some mixed reactions to this program from other regional districts. So we've been CC'd on 2 letters now from other regional districts to the province critical of this program. One of those is in your agenda package today. So I appreciate that each regional district has their own perspective and challenges, and so I'm not speaking today to suggest the other RDs don't have valid concerns, but I wanted to provide some context from our perspective as TNRD staff as to why we support this program and are recommending moving forward with it in our region. So the Cooperative Community Wildfire Response Program creates an avenue for local community groups to take basic wildfire training and purchase personal protective equipment. So they are equipped to kind of the minimum standards to be able to be hired by BC Wildfire in the event of a fire in their community. So the way this program works is that regional districts apply for funding to the province and then use that money to pay for the training and the PPE for those community groups. So the community groups cannot apply directly to the program. It needs to go through the regional districts to facilitate the grant program. So some of the concerns the other RDs are raising is that they see this as a form of downloading responsibility because of the additional workload on regional district staff. The increased liability, or at least perceived increased liability to regional districts by enabling community members to respond to wildfires, especially if it's outside of the intended scope of this program. And the reputational damage to regional districts who may opt not to participate in this program, which means then the community groups within those RDs can't participate. So our perspective on this program is based on our own experience in the EOC. So as you know, the unfortunate reality is that we activate our EOC every season and issue evacuation orders and alerts almost every year. So in our experience, we've come to accept the reality that and appreciate that rural residents are and will continue to be involved in protecting their properties from approaching wildfire. In the past, both regional districts and BC Wildfire have struggled with how to respond to this fact. To put it more bluntly, I would say that historically the approach has been get the public out of the way so we can respond to the emergency. And we've learned that this is not the right approach. This was confirmed by the Premier's Expert Task Force created in 2023, which recommended defining clear pathways for organized and trained local people to play a role in wildfire preparedness and response, and integrating that with the BC Wildfire Service. So that's what this program intends to do. But based on many of the concerns the other RDs raised, I think the issue boils down to why should regional districts be involved in this program? Why should we be the ones that coordinate it? So we feel strongly that regional districts must be involved in this program for it to be successful. And I'll give you the three reasons why. We know TNRD directors and staff, we know the district better than BC Wildfire Service ever will. So that's not a critical of BC Wildfire Service. It's just the reality that when we're in the EOC, we know our community. We know that the incident commanders of BC Wildfire Service may be from Northern BC, maybe from Alberta, maybe from Australia. So we have that knowledge and the community groups have that knowledge. So I think it's unrealistic to expect that BC Wildfire Service can successfully engage with individual community groups across the province. So essentially this program is asking RDs to help the province kind of facilitate those relationships and find those community groups. Number two is that we as regional districts want to, or we as the TNRD want to build relationships with the community groups. In some cases, we already have relationships with the groups that we know are interested. But in other cases, we're just learning that some of these groups exist because we've never had any interaction with them in the past. This may be in part because there was no opportunity in the past for them to participate in any emergency response, so there was no reason for them to engage with us. And number three, it creates a more coordinated response to emergencies. Again, from the regional EOC perspective, we want to know what community groups are out there, the ones that are trained and being engaged by BC Wildfire Service. So if this program is left for BC Wildfire to engage directly with the community groups without our involvement, we won't know these groups exist, we won't know what's happening, and we won't know when they're engaged. And this coordinated response can also extend beyond wildfires. So having relationships with the community groups enables us, at least opens the door for us to partner with these local contacts in the event of other emergencies such as a flood where BC Wildfire is not even involved. And a final point is just from a staff capacity perspective, as this is something that's been raised by the other RDs. We are in a fortunate scenario at the TNRD that this board has already approved in 2023 the fire training coordinator position. So that position is being filled currently by Janice Winger in our Fire Protection Services department. So when this position was approved, and still to this day as a permanent position, it's funded 50% from our Fire Protection Services departments, but the other 50% from EA administration function. So we already have existing staff capacity and properly allocated to support her position, that not only she works with our local fire departments, but also can support this program. And so she will be the staff person who would move this forward. A shout out to Janice, her involvement last year in 2024, she was instrumental in coordinating the last minute training through this program with community members in the Venables Valley who took the S100 training course here in Kamloops while they were evacuated from their community during the Shetland Creek wildfire. Now, leave it at that and open up to any questions about the program.
Okay, yep, I was just going to say, who moved the recommendation? Director Thorpe, seconded by Director Karpuk. Thank you very much. All right, questions and comments. And I will just, before we get into questions and comments, note that the Filman report, which was produced in the wake of the 2003 wildfires, noted that standardization of training against all levels of people who are fighting wildfires needed to be implemented. That was back in 2004. I think the S100, S185 training, knowing who is on the ground and that they all have been trained to that standard is awesome. And I certainly have heard through 2017, 2021, 2023, 2024 wildfires that people on the ground want to play a part in protecting their communities. And I think that if the TNRD can play a part in ensuring that they have the training needed and they have the correct PPE, then we are going a long way towards satisfying the desire of not all residents certainly, but many of them to take positive action, real action in terms of protecting and safeguarding their communities. As Mr. Vieira said, the 12 people in Venables Valley last year who took that training, 2 of whom are being recognized by the Ashcroft-Cache Creek Rotary Club as Citizens of the Year for 2024 for TNRD Area I. So questions and comments? Mr. Hildebrand?
Sorry, if I could just add one more through the chair to the board is one thing that Jamie, I didn't mention is the fact that some of the other regional districts that are maybe speaking against it, it's just not a fit for them. We feel like as the TNRD, we want to take a leadership role in this, and everything Jamie said made total sense. And some of the other regional districts in the province have their geography is covered by fire services all over the place, where we have 45,000 square kilometers of space with very limited fire protection. So that's another one of the big differences. So just wanted to bring that up as well.
Questions, Director Thorpe, Director Blackwell, Director Hayward, Director Thorpe.
I don't have a question. I am completely in favor of this. There are so many areas that do not have fire protection. They're outside of fire protection. And not only does it increase the safety of the communities, but it gives people safety because they are properly trained. And it also gives them a sense that they're not helpless. And I think that that is huge with what's been happening. Shout out to the training that happened for Venables last year. Actually, ironically enough, shout out to CN. They covered the personal protective equipment for those firefighters to be trained, or for the community members to be trained, because those personal protective equipment have been lost in the wildfire. So having an actual organized program, I think, is definitely a step in the right direction.
Thank you. Director Blackwell.
Yeah, just a couple of comments as well. I've had conversations in the last 2 months with Forest Minister Ravi Parmar on this twice, and with Jeffrey Dunn from Kamloops Wildfire Center. I was happy to hear from, sad to hear that we're not going to get initial TAC crews back in the North Thompson Valley. So watch the Clearwater Council news for the next couple month or so, because there'll be some initiatives coming forward on that to fill that gap, hopefully. But also to hear that despite what I would take is sort of the obvious, BC Wildfire is actually being fairly successful at hiring this year for crews, and they have a lot of people returning. So unlike a couple of years ago where it was a real struggle to get staff, they've been successful. But yeah, I fully support this as well. We need to be starting to take care of our own issues, and it'd be much better to not being, as local governments, going into conflict, telling people what to do, but basically giving them the tools to help themselves, and making them part of the team. Because you're absolutely right, down to every old logger or young guy, young family that wants to protect their home, they all want to help here. So let's teach them and make them part of the team in the right way.
Thank you, Director Blackwell. Well said. Director Hayward.
Well, Mayor Blackwell kind of said what I was going to say, but I've been involved in the wildfire since 2003. Unfortunately, mostly when property is burning up really close to my ranch. But this is an amazing thing how our residents have grouped together. Instead of fighting with BC Wildfire, they have got together with BC Wildfire, with the regional district, so that we don't have people hiding out in the backcountry so they can go fight fires and we don't know that they're there. We also, that I saw the last couple of years, is our people, our ranchers, our loggers, the people who work in the bush in the North Thompson have been invaluable with BC Wildfire on showing them where the skid trails are. Don't go up that one because that side of that mountain's going to come down if you take heavy equipment up there. And it has made a big difference. And even one group this year drew maps for BC Wildfire because they had no idea where they were and how they were going to get up to the fire. And it has worked out really, really well. And I think every region is different, and our region, this is working in, and I really say kudos to the TNRD for taking it on, because I think that other regions will learn that this does work. And I feel much more protected knowing that we have all of these groups, because we had a lightning strike on the back of our ranch and there was nobody who could come, but one of those groups came and held it until we got the professionals in, and we knew they were coming, and it was amazing. It made a big difference.
Thank you. Alternate Director Bepple.
Thanks. I don't know if this would be staff or board, but has there been thoughts of whether this same program would be available to areas that do have structural fire protection? I would assume that we, like in McClure, for instance.
Yeah, I could speak to that through the chair. The program is designed by, and the rules are set by BC Wildfire, but I understand the way they created the program is if there's already a structural fire protection, then they have agreements in place and able to hire that fire department on, pay for that fire department to do the work. So it'd be the concept that when there's no fire protection existing anywhere, and there's a community group that exists that wants to be quasi-organized to be able to be hired by BC Wildfire. So this, I guess to say it in a different way, it's not needed where there's already structural fire protection, because the BC Wildfire would hire the fire department to do this work, but where there's no fire department to be hired, then they could look to a community group like this.
And just, I don't know, the Ashcroft Indian Band received funding for the S100, S185 wildland firefighting training last year, and they invited members of Ashcroft Fire Rescue, which is a structural protection fire department within Ashcroft. They were invited to take part and take the same training, and they participated in a very small test prescribed to burn last year. And then, so AFR members will be assisting AIB again this year in a 50-hectare controlled burn, which is scheduled to take place sometime in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So fire departments like Ashcroft can participate in this training. I don't know if they have to do it in partnership with a group like Ashcroft Indian Band, but because normally our firefighters do not do wildland firefighting. They can assist BC Wildfire, but it's usually, I think, with structural protection, as with 2021 with Tremont Creek. But Mr. Vieira?
Yeah, just on the training front, I mean, most fire departments, TNRD fire departments, for example, we, as part of our budget process, we budget for training, and the S100 course is a course that our firefighters are trained in. So that's covered, that mechanism. And there's other grant programs available to fire departments that aren't available to community groups like this. So this program is specific to non-structural fire departments.
Director Oslo?
Thank you. That's just muddied the water a little bit in my mind with the improvement district and our structural fire department, who at this point haven't expressed an interest in being wildfire firefighters. So would there have to be another nonprofit group of people that banded together if through the community that wasn't our specific volunteer fire department in order to qualify for this training, or the fact that we have structural protection, would that eliminate them from having another group?
Yeah, good question. My understanding is having a structural fire department improvement district would be included because they're a recognized fire department, that another community group would not be eligible for this, because if there was a fire there, BC Wildfire would hire the fire department to engage in the fire. Yeah. So I'm happy to have conversations one-off about those fire departments and how this works. Keeping in mind, this training and the PPE is very, very specific and narrow. It's only basic personal protective equipment, and it's only basic training courses. So this isn't opening the floodgates to a whole bunch of training dollars that the structural fire departments are missing out on. These are 2 days courses and then a hard hat, Tyvek suit, eye protection and gloves.
Director Blackwell?
Yeah, one of the ongoing discussions in Clearwater is along these lines with the VFD doing structural, but we're also talking about selectively training groups of people under the umbrella of the VFD specifically that are interested in wildland firefighting, because like Blue River Improvement District, there are a heck of a lot of trees in Clearwater, forested lands that put everything at risk. So we as the VFD are looking to kind of do two separate things, and District Clearwater has a bush truck in addition to all of our standard urban firefighting apparatus. But definitely in conversations with people that have fought wildland, it is two different skill sets and quite often two sets of physical capacity. It's a young person's, fit person's job. So, I mean, maybe that's a model to do, is to create a separate wing of the VFD.
Any other questions or comments on this? All right, on the motion, all those in favor? Is anyone opposed? That is carried. 11.1.3 Library Capital Projects Grant Funding. We do have two recommendations. Move on, Director Graham, thank you, and seconded by Director Sarai. Any discussion on recommendation number one? I'm going to let you speak before number two because number one's fairly straightforward. So any discussion on recommendation number one, which has been duly moved and seconded? No? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. And before we move on to number two, we have a few words. Yes.
Okay, I just want to quickly take you through kind of what we're doing with this recommendation. Two, I've gotten a couple questions on why we have combined kind of two different things into that one recommendation. So, oh. Can't hear me? Hello? I broke it. Yeah, I can take you through it kind of without it too. So we have two current library projects that have already been approved. The first one is the mobile library replacement, where currently we're funding that $350,000 from the library enhancement grant that we received the other year. So what we've had a conversation with UBCM on CCBF funding, and typically with CCBF funding, we can't use that money for things that move, is kind of how we say it. But with something like the mobile library, where it goes to a location, then sits while it's in operation, it's kind of a different story. So we went to UBCM and we talked to them about the mobile library, and they were okay with us using the Canada Community Building Fund to pay for that. So what we've done is we've said, okay, let's take $250,000 from the Canada Community Building Fund, put it towards the mobile library. By doing that, we free up $250,000 of the enhancement grant that was going to go towards the mobile library. We now take that money and we can put it towards the North Kamloops Library renovation, which was previously fully funded by taxpayer capital reserve, which essentially frees up $250,000 of capital reserve that we could use for other projects that may not be grant eligible. So it's kind of just transparency thing. We're moving money around so that we can fund grant eligible projects from grants and save our reserve money for when we really need it.
Thank you very much for that. I was told you would put it very eloquently, and you did indeed, so thank you. So we have Director Middleton has moved the recommendation, and Director Hall seconds that. Any questions or comments? Director Thorpe.
So I have a question about this 250,000 that we're taking from the pooled funds. My understanding is, and maybe I'm wrong here, is that we were putting that pooled funds together because at some point we are going to have to replace the roof on this building. And that was a major expenditure that we were using the pooled funds for. So are we kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul? Are we going to end up having increased taxation down the road when we want to put a new roof on this building?
So that's a great question. We're not draining the full fund that's in the pooled fund, and the amount that we're taking out and what's left over also doesn't include what we're getting as an allocation for this year. We're currently looking into taking the portion of this building's roof that corresponds with the library, and we're still planning on funding it out of that pooled fund. So this shouldn't impact that in any way.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Director Getz and then Director Grenier.
I think I know the answer to this question, but when I do read this about the Merritt Library, it basically says the building was built in 2001 while the library is well maintained and repairs were made to its roof in 2015 and 2024. It is beyond its useful life and requires full replacement. We're talking the roof, not the building, right? Okay, thank you.
Director Grenier.
Thank you, Chair. In the past, we've heard about how the mobile library was very difficult to maneuver and even finding a new home for the mobile library. So is there anything in this decision where we also save money on the North Shore and maintain the facility of the location? Just wondering if there could be a comment on that.
Through to the chair to Director Grenier, this is actually a big cost-saving measure for us because by changing up the mobile library, moving to a more efficient model, it will enable us to continue housing the mobile library at the North Shore Library. So multiple cost savings. I didn't enumerate on those in the board report, but great question.
Any other questions? On the motion, that all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Ms. Moore.
An irregularity, I want to recognize Austin Potts for his work on working through the various funding opportunities. The library has not tapped into the Canadian. Thank you. We haven't utilized that before, so it was through our budget discussions and whatnot. This thought came from Austin, so I think it's netting it out to be a real positive for the library. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you. All right, we move on to 11.1.4, an annual update from Film Commissioner Terry Hadwin.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for giving me some time here to talk about the accomplishments of 2024 and what we're aspiring to accomplish in 2025. I'm Terry Hadwin, and I am the Thompson-Nicola Film Commissioner. And this is our new mission statement that came out of the process of us doing our 3-year strategic plan with a consultation of film industry professionals. And it's not a lot different from what it was before. And I don't think I need to read it out, but if you're wanting to see what it is, you can look it up online. This is our team. We had a operations overhaul a little bit. We have 2 full-time employees, myself and Katie, and we have a part-time film assistant, Vesta Giles, who is a filmmaker herself, which just lends so much expertise and knowledge and really that boots on the ground knowledge of what we can be doing to grow film industry and support local filmmakers specifically. So we're very happy with that. And I'd like to acknowledge that last year we also had the retirement of Sherry Lapointe, who had been with the organization for over a decade. So we are one of 8 film commissions within the province. One of them is not currently operational, so things that are happening in the Columbia Shoe Shop, we are directing directly to Creative BC. And we follow the Association Film Commission International guidelines of what a film commission is, which means that we cannot charge for our services. So we are available for free for productions to provide information, and as well we provide free information to residents. So when a film production comes to the area and wants to utilize a resident's property, we're there to provide support, to answer questions. Questions come up about insurance or who to hire for crew, what services that they can utilize within the area. So those are many of the questions that we help answer. So last year, we had a slow recovery in the film industry. We thought that it was going to come back raging after the strikes. It's been much slower than we originally thought. So you can see that in 2023, the estimated economic impact was substantially lower than it was the few years before, and actually lower than it had been since 2016. So big changes happened. We are starting to see the recovery come back again, though. So I just wanted to show that that has been, it's been what we're recognizing here within the region. It's what we're seeing provincially and what we're seeing in Canada and really worldwide. So last year, we had a direct spend of $3.5 million that we estimate of what was directly spent within just the TNRD within the motion picture industry. And that has a spin-off direct output of $9.75 million that has been economically stimulated in the TNRD. If anybody watched the Oscars, we had a nomination actually put forward. So Sugarcane was mostly filmed within the Caribou-Chilcotin, but also portions of it was filmed within the TNRD, and it was very exciting to watch the Oscars and see that nomination. Regretfully, we didn't win, but I still think being a part of that team being nominated is pretty exceptional.
Here's some other projects that came out last year. So Edge of Sleep was almost 100% filmed within the Kamloops area, and it's a TV series. So multiple episodes were shot within Kamloops area. We had talked about Tracker being released right after the Super Bowl. That is pretty much the premium time slot that you can ask for, and a lot of their promotional materials included shots of our region, so marketing that we would never be able to afford. Die Alone was also a movie that was shot in our area. Only the opening scenes. Regretfully, we lost the rest of the movie to Saskatchewan, but we did have at least a portion of it shot here. Get Fast was really exciting. It was a production that was 100% shot in the TNRD. Lou Diamond Phillips probably being the most famous actor that was in there as well. But Sly, you might recognize him from Sonic the Hedgehog. We did the world premiere here in Kamloops at the Paramount Theater, and we held a Q&A session afterwards with multiple people that were involved in the production. So the directors, the writers, the producers, the cast. It was pretty well attended and very exciting to host here. The Test, produced by Vesta Giles, a documentary about wildfire resilience, about the first FireSmart community in Logan Lake. In Cold Water is partially filmed in the Kamloops area, and it was one of the top 10 streamed shows on Amazon Prime when it was released. And then Henderson, a short film that's been winning multiple awards, so one to check and look out for. And I just also want to mention that sometimes we have projects that we just can't talk about. I'm under NDA, and everybody and their dog might know that a production is happening in our area, but I just can't talk about it until I'm released from that obligation with that NDA. So I'm working behind the scenes, and they're really exciting projects that I can't wait to tell you about, but I just can't until I'm released from that obligation. So I do want to make that that noted. So what is it that we do? I've shared this in the past, and it hasn't really much changed. And I know that many of you in the room are very familiar with. These are some of the many tasks that we work on when a production approaches us, or when a resident approaches us, when they've been approached by a film production. But I think that the common thread is that we are trying to welcome film productions into our area to stimulate economic growth. That the bottom line, that's what we do. But the many duties include reading scripts, scouting for locations, taking photographs, a liaison with locals, maintaining a film friendliness, maintaining our local pride, and supporting infrastructure growth, and supporting the locals that are wanting to continue with film industry. In summary, we are ambassadors for the region in the film industry. Some of our accomplishments for the year included our 3-year strategic plan, and that's posted online, so you can read that. We've done a very long strategic plan or a summary, depending on how much time you want to be involved in reading some homework. So those are both posted online. We re-released the digital movie map. I'm really excited about this project. It was released in December of 2024, and it was one of the top 10 sites visited of the TNRD server in just that 1 month. So it goes to show that people are interested and they're wanting to go and visit that website, and it's being utilized. For the first time in a very long time, we were able to go and attend a trade show. So we went to the American Film Market in Las Vegas. We were there for about a week, and we were promoting our region as a potential destination for people to film.
And it was really great because we were the only Canadian location featured there. So we definitely got a lot of people coming to visit us and talk to us. I was there at the time when Trump was announced that he would be the next president. Our dollar, unfortunately, took a little bit of a turn at that time, but it made us that much more exciting of a location for film industry, which is good for economic development at this time. And all the time, really, but especially right now. We've been recognized as the top small city to live and work as a filmmaker for 3 years in a row. I think that that's pretty great. So you can go and read those articles year after year and see why we've been recognized. But I think that it really speaks to what we have here as being a filming location. We've really wanted to offer training and networking opportunities for people that are in the film industry so that they can have a place of gathering to talk about projects that they are working on or wanting to work on. Every month we have a different theme or topic of conversation. So every third Sunday, we host this event at the FE Arts Collective. And we have had guest speakers that include Tell a Story Hive, different unions within film industry. This month is Women's in the Director's Chair, so there's always an element of what the people can learn and talk about. And then there's also the opportunity to just sit and chat and collectively work on projects together. So starting tomorrow, we have a 2-day seminar where we are working collaboratively with the Kamloops Film Society, really elevating the Kamloops Film Festival as well as the learning opportunities that we are offering. So it's a match made in heaven, really. Most film festivals that are offered throughout Canada and really worldwide have an industry component. And this is really bringing that into the interior. We have over 50 people that are registered to attend this phenomenal seminar event. The guest speakers include people from the Knowledge Network and from the National Film Board. So this is really A-class speakers that haven't typically come to the interior. And so we're really, really thrilled to be able to offer this. We've got our bylaw passed so that we can charge for our e-generators. Just so excited that these are going to be utilized. For the production that we just loaned them out to, they had them for about 4 weeks, and about 132 kilograms of CO2 was saved by them using these e-generators. That can be hard to imagine because it's invisible. So just imagine 132 beach balls worth of pollution that has been saved by us offering these e-generators. And of course, there is also the added benefit of them being whisper quiet. We're hosting a familiarization tour this year where we will be bringing location managers that may not be familiar with all of the location gems that we have. So we will be putting them in a bus and taking them around and showing them our goods. And there's always the potential of us still working towards getting the motion picture studio. These are some places that you can connect with us. So if you're wanting to stay in touch and in tune with the various different film industry networking events, all those types of things, you can subscribe to our newsletter, follow us on our socials, visit our website. And I just want to remind everybody that the Kamloops Film Festival does start today and it continues on until the 15th. It includes the film industry, the Learn About Film seminar and many great films and a lot of other really fun events to check out. I think there's a movie trivia night and the Kamloops Shorts this Sunday, which I will definitely be taking part in. So yeah, make sure that you check that out. And that's it for my summary. Is there any questions?
Thank you very much. Director Sao? start us off. And if anyone else has questions or comments, please put up your hand.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, just me. Um, Is there any feedback on, like, for example, you mentioned the production for Die Alone. In the end, they went to Saskatchewan. Did they give you feedback on why? And also based on that, I wonder if there is any value to connect or integrate the Film Commission connected to our advocacy framework when, you know, the work of Mr. Kelly goes to the provincial government for say stuff like, hey, you know, we've had feedback from 5 Production who said they went to Alberta because they can save 2% on tax incentives and such. Yeah, thank you.
So that production company was actually based in Saskatchewan and was very much looking around our area because their tax credits had been clawed back at the time, and now they have been reinstated. But our BC film tax credits have just been announced that they have been increased. Just yesterday, I believe the announcement came out, so I think it makes us that much more lucrative. You're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions from Commissioner Hadwin? Always exciting to see our area on screen.
Thank you so much.
Oh, and just also, did you want to mention the display that the Kamloops Museum is planning on doing to see if anyone has, I emailed them with a film artifact I haven't heard back yet, but who knows?
That's fantastic. Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, so we have been approached by the Kamloops Museum in support of callouts for any movie props or movie memorabilia, specifically if it can be attached to any productions that were done within the TNRD. They are putting together a pretty excellent exhibit. I'm really excited about what they have so far, but they are still looking for props to add to that exhibit. And it will be on display during the time when the BC Heritage Conference is coming to Kamloops. So that will be the showcase exhibit. So very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Awesome, thank you. All right, we have 3 items for correspondence for information. Did anyone have any questions or comments on any of those items? No. New business. Director Karpuk.
Thank you, Chair. Yesterday, Director Lepso and I were in his home community, and he hosted us very well out there for the Shuswap Watershed Council meeting. And elected as vice chair to represent the area in there, so appreciative of the support. Couple of issues just to bring up in note. There were 12 instances of quagga mussels and zebra mussels that were detected in coming into BC, all of which were coming from parts elsewhere. For those of you who aren't aware, those are some pretty serious invasive species that has massive implications should they take hold in BC for our water systems, both potable and sanitary. So ever vigilant on that. We raised some concerns with regards to the fact there are only 12 operating stations that are open only certain hours of the day in BC, down from 12. So I think that might be an issue for us to bring up at UBCM as well in the future to get that vigilance back up in our inspection stations because we do not want to see any of that come here. Lots of work going on within the region to address things like whirling fish disease, which has now been detected in Kootenay Lake. Again, another invasive type problem. Lots of things going on. And just to switch gears back to what we just previously talked about with regards to fire. Friday last week, we had the opportunity to collectively bring together BC Parks, BC Wildfire, and our Kamloops fire rescue staff, along with a various different number from both of those ministries, to discuss our upcoming burns that we're going to be doing within the Kamloops area, one of which I believe falls within the TNRD, just at the base of the Lactobel grasslands between the Bachelor Heights and the grassland protected park just to the northwest. Pearson Creek and then the Rose Hill area will also be on that list. But coming from that, Director Blackwell raised Mr. Dunn out at BC Wildfire, and in discussions during that meeting last Friday, discussions about the opportunity to have fall protection danger trees or any sort of falling activities within the regional district. There is an interest from BC Wildfire for any community that would like to have some trees removed so that they have practice for their members. If there is any interest, please reach out to BC Wildfire through Jeff Dunn out there, and they would happily send a crew out to help mitigate some of your risks. So I thought I would extend that to the members here. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Alternate Director Bepple.
Thanks. This is in terms of Federation of Canadian Municipalities. So this last week, ending just before this meeting, I've participated in committee meetings. And then in a week from today, or a week from now, I'll be going for the board meeting in Dorval. The message at all of the committee meetings, number one, is that the whole situation in terms of tariffs and what's happening between the US and Canada is the highest priority for the FCM. They also outlined the strategy, which is the Prime Minister talks to the President, the Premiers talk to the governors. The role of the FCM is to reach out to the similar organizations. They named 3 of local government organizations to talk to those local governments about how the tariffs, they may be important to us in terms of the harm, but how they may impact on their constituents as well. So that is ongoing. Another message is that FCM wants to very much be on the same page as the provinces and the federal government. So to make sure whatever we're messaging is in sync with those other levels of government. The third is that, and this might be something to think about, but for instance, Kamloops Fire Chief gave me information in terms of the costs of the amount of US fire equipment that we buy, and it would be the same for every fire department because all the fire equipment comes from the States. So FCM is collecting the impact of the things that we have to buy from the States and looking at it as a way of using that information in terms of coming up with a strategy to deal with the tariffs. For instance, looking at ways, this would be a suggestion, not saying it would happen, but being able to buy fire equipment perhaps from Europe if we are not going to be getting it from the States. And finally, just a kudos to the TNRD because they've been supporting the FCM in a very specific issue, which was funding for small water systems. And the FCM noted that they've gotten support from you on that issue, as well as from some other local governments to try to get a change in the funding for small water systems, which I know is an issue for the TNRD. So I just finished the meetings before this, so I'll see what other things I can provide, if possible, that's not enclosed with the FCM, and pass them on to CAO Hildebrandt or Chair Roden. But it might be after I go to Dorval in a couple weeks when I get back.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any items of new business? All right, we move on to notice of motion. Director Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair. This is the notice of motion I brought forward at the last board meeting, and I'm hoping that the board will support me in directing staff to looking at ways to move forward to reestablish library services within the community of Lytton, to look at all options and try and find the most effective solution for the community and the Thompson-Nicola Regional Library. And I think it's time that we start looking at putting it back. So I hope you support. Thank you.
So you're making this motion?
Yes, sir. I am.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
All right. It's the deep voice. I've got a frog in my throat. And Director O'Connor, you're seconding that motion? Thank you. And I understand, Director O'Connor, you'd like to speak to this.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I have some concerns with this motion. I think most of you know, Canada has provided funds to build a hub in the village. Part of the criteria for that is to include public accessible building or sorry, services within that hub. And so we are moving ahead with that project. Canada listed library as one of the types of services that could be included in that. So all of our First Nations in our area, so there's 5 bands around, they all support our hub project. They're on our PAC, our project advisory committee. They've written letters of support for this. They're well aware of, that we would like to include the library in the hub. Last week, I met with the executive director of in Zenman, Bird's Nest, which is a child and family development center. They're building a new facility and they're building a library. And I was meeting with her on a different topic, but she brought up to me that there was a question asked about the TNRD library in her facility. And she said that no, this is a very specialized library that they're putting in to support child and family development. I'm just concerned with this motion that it's getting in the weeds and that it's directing staff to do things that I think I would hope Judy and her team would know how to reach out, find out what services are needed in Lytton. And I really hope that that we work with the Village of Lytton before finding or reaching out to other organizations. Because, we are a member municipality. And yeah, thank you.
Oops, sorry, thank you. Director Thorpe.
Maybe my motion isn't clear. It's to look at all options. We're in a situation where my understanding is that the Lytton Library was underutilized and it was one of the lowest libraries in the system. The community has gone through a lot. And I would really like to see a physical library reestablished in the community. And to me, that may be looking at some kind of nonprofit. It may be looking at something like Bird's Nest. And actually, I've had a conversation with Ramona too about it. And Ramona is from the Zenman Bird's Nest. And she did sound like it was something that she wanted to explore. But this isn't up to me. We are a board of 27. And what we need to do is we need to look at whatever solution, whether it is putting it in the hub, whether it is working with First Nations, or whether it's working with a nonprofit. In my mind, and again, I am one of 27, we need to look at a way that we can make this work for the community. And if it turns out that we can find a way to save money and make this a viable option rather than still being a mobile library, I think we owe it to every citizen in the TNRD to look at this. I'm not saying that we don't put it in the hub, but I'm saying that we owe it to all of our taxpayers to look at every option and figure out what is the best solution for everyone. Thank you.
And I see that Ms. Moore is here. Ms. Moore, did you want to speak to this at all? I'm not in any way honestly trying to put you on the spot. If you would rather not, then that is fine too. You're good? All right. I know I personally have spoken with library staff and I know that they do have statistics on the usage at the Lytton Library prior to June 2021. And not only I think how many people used it, but what services people were specifically accessing it. And to me, anyway, my idea behind this, and perhaps I'm wrong, was one of the main things was to find out what services from a library people in Lytton and the surrounding area want. I think many people are stuck in an idea of a library being stacks and stacks and stacks of books. And that's it. And to those people, I say, well, then maybe you should have visited a library since Ronald Reagan was president in the United States. Libraries are so much more than that. And I think that this report, my feeling about this report is this is going to find out what people in in Lytton and the area want a library to look like. Do they want lots and lots of books, or do they want lots and lots of computer desks with computers where they can access the internet and services? And I believe that that is the report we will get back from library staff. Ms. Moore is nodding. That's awesome. And I look forward to that because I think that is very much going to guide what the future of library services in Lytton looks like. And I don't think I'm speaking out of turn or just for myself when I say that I suspect most people around this table would like to see the return of a more permanent library service to the village of Lytton to serve residents and to serve residents of TNRD Area I and to serve the 5 First Nations in and around Lytton. And I look forward to getting that report from the library staff and moving forward on this. Director Hildebrand, is that a promotion or a demotion? I'm not entirely sure. CAO Hildebrand, and then I saw Director Sarai with his hand up.
Thank you, Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the clarity. I think staff will certainly provide a thorough and fulsome report, and you can expect to get that from us. It'll kind of share all the options for the board to decide on. We've sat down and talked about this and felt like it would be good to get this in front of the board just to make sure there was some clear direction on next steps. We are feeling that there's a committee of the whole coming up at the end of June. That's what we're aiming for, to have that research and that report done. Or at least started, and we will be able to, and Ms. Moore will be able to walk us through all those details at that time. So just want to give a bit more perspective so that you had a better idea upon voting on this.
And thanks for the clarification on the timeline as well. That's awesome. That's only 3-4 months away. Director Sarai.
Thank you, Madam
And
Chair.
Director Middleton.
I just have one question and maybe a concern on my side. If we're going to get staff to look at the feasibility of where it could go, if the town is already looking at a community hub, to me, that would increase the numbers of people that would come there to go to the library when they're accessing other businesses or services. How is staff going to determine numbers that aren't even there yet to determine what site they would choose? I'm just wondering what is the struggle going to be there?
Director O'Connor.
Yeah, so the population of the Lytton area is there. It is similar to what it was before fire. It is a bit less, of course. And you know, when I said library at the hub, I really meant the services at the hub, and whether that's a parking space to put the mobile library or whether it's a physical space within the hub. I guess that's more what I was talking about. Thank you.
And to your question, Director Sarai? Thank you. Director Middleton.
Thank you. Is this notice of motion, I'm going to say, even really required? Because it sounds like staff is already working on this and is going to bring a report forward. So I would fail to see why we need a notice of motion to ask for information that is already being worked on by staff, unless there's a disconnect that I'm not understanding. I just don't even know what the notice of motion is hoping to achieve, because I think it's already underway by the sounds of things. So just my comment is I can't quite figure out what we're supposed to do with that, because I think it's already being done.
CAO Hildebrand.
Thank you to Director Middleton through the chair. It's been a discussion in the public on social media a little bit about what the plan is for this, and this was just to bring some more clarity and attention to it. It's something that we've been working on and continue to work on. So you're correct. It's not needed, but it was more to just bring awareness and understanding on what next steps look like.
Supplementary. So basically voting in favor of this motion doesn't really change what's happening anyway, and in no way ties the TNRD to doing anything other than gathering information.
You're 100% correct. It's just, as I explained. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? All right, we do have the motion before us. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? If those opposed could please put their hands up. Does anyone want me to read the names? Read the names? All right. Directors O'Reilly, O'Connor, Hall, Lepso, Blackwell, Bepple, Morris, and Bass. Director Morris, yeah, I got you. Yep. Okay. Yep, so I think we've got everyone who was opposed. So the motion carries.
Let me just confirm. So I have Director O'Reilly, O'Connor, Hall, Blackwell, Bepple, Morris, and Bass that were opposed.
Believe that was it. 1, 2, 3,
And Director
4,
Lepsa.
5.
So the motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, we move on to question period. Are there any questions from members of the public who might be present somewhere? No? All right, I would like to move that we move into a closed meeting under Community Charter Section 90.1C, Labor Relations or Other Employee Relations, and G, Litigation or Potential Litigation Affecting the Regional District.
Second.
Director O'Reilly seconds that. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. We will adjourn for 5 minutes.